So the Minnesota Vikings lose to the Detroit Lions at home at US Bank Stadium on Whiteout Sunday. Let's get into it.
Hey there, Vikings Nation. Get ready to dive deep into the Skol state of mind. Join our host, D Woods, as he shares his unfiltered takes on all things Vikings, from expert game analysis to player controversies and everything in between. If you love the Vikings for better or worse, then you've come to the right place. So grab a drink and let's talk all things purple and gold. This is the Skol State of Mind podcast.
Welcome to the Skol State of Mind podcast. I'm your host, D Woods. I know I'm recording this video a little bit late. The holidays, have to spend some time with family, and I'm going to give you guys a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. But let's get into this Vikings-Lions recap. Well, the Minnesota Vikings lost to the Detroit Lions at home on Whiteout Sunday. And with that loss, the Detroit Lions basically clinched their playoff spot and the division. If the Vikings would have won, the Vikings would have still been in play to win out and win the division. But that didn't go as planned. I mean, 30-24, I wouldn't consider that to be like a high-flying game. It was points being scored, but like I feel the offense for the Vikings had got a little stagnant and a little predictable. But I would say hats off to the Detroit Lions. They came in to US Bank and they did what they had to do. So hats off to them. Congratulations for them. You know, they won the division, whatever, moving on. But let's talk about the defense for a little bit. In my opinion, I feel that the defense actually did their job when it came down to like timely stops, especially like, you know, the last couple of series of the game. I feel like the defense did their job and gave the offense the ball, and the offense kind of shot themselves in the foot all day. I mean, we're going to talk more about Kevin O'Connell and Nick Mullins later in this video, but for the defense, I pretty much saw what I need to see because I was questioning, you know, Brian Flores' defense the last game against Cincinnati down the line. I mean, I understand this is the NFL and, you know, passing and big plays is going to happen. And you're more than likely, you're not going to be able to stop your opposing team every drive. But I feel like the defense was solid, and I feel like Brian Flores actually made adjustments with the players that he had available and basically still able to have a good defense of performance on Sunday against the Detroit Lions. So hats off to them, to Brian Flores for making the right tweaks. But, you know, it's kind of like, you know, the players that Brian Flores has at his disposal, you know, you got players going in and out, and it's kind of like they still were able to get the job done. Nick Mullins. All right, look. Excuse me. Nick Mullins, 4 interceptions for 411 yards, but you still threw 4 interceptions. And I think those turnovers is what cost the Minnesota Vikings this game. I really feel like they could have won this game if they wouldn't have had so many turnovers. But the Vikings been turning over the ball all season. So, I mean, do we actually think that they're going to get their turnovers solved with the last 3 weeks in the season? Probably not. But I saw Mullins slinging the ball. I mean, Justin Jefferson is the great eraser, you know, 141 yards, 1 touchdown. Some cases was like so amazing. KJ Osborne stepped up, in my opinion, with 95 yards. But, I mean, we know what we know in Nick Mullins. Like we know what kind of player he is. We know how he wants to be a gunslinger. We know that, and it's kind of like I'm left saying like, what if with this season? Because it's kind of like, all right, we started Mullins and we've lost the last 2 games basically, and the last 2 games we've lost basically because he's made stupid ass decisions and turning the ball over. I mean, even though there were 4 interceptions, it could have been a lot more than 4. It could have been a pick 6 in there, just like it was last week, and defensive players actually dropped the ball. So Nick Mullins is the backup. And I don't want to talk too much about Kirk and say, oh, we could have won this game with Kirk, because we never know. But it's kind of like, what the hell happened? And like, come on, dude. This is a big one for me. The lack of a ground attack. The Minnesota Vikings only ran the ball 11 times on Sunday morning. What the fuck? Like, Ty Chandler had a great game against Cincinnati, and I feel like Kevin O'Connell didn't allow him to get a rhythm and get going and build some type of momentum. And it was kind of basically like, oh, we're just gonna drop Mullins back and pass. And it's like the best thing that you can do and basically complement a backup quarterback or a young quarterback is a good defense check and consistently running the ball. And I feel like with the lack of a running attack, like you only ran the ball 11 times. I mean, the Minnesota Vikings led in this game, and they could have protected their lead if they decided to run the ball, but they just decided not to. And I just really don't understand it, like the logic with it, like Kevin O'Connell just doesn't like running the ball. And I'm thinking about this, and I've been thinking about this for the past couple of days. So Kevin O'Connell is a part of the Sean McVay tree with Shanahan and everybody else, right? But he's the only one off of this tree that can't run the ball consistently. Sean McVay, you saw what he did with Todd Gurley, and you saw what he's doing now with this rookie running back. Forgot Kylan or whatever. I forgot his name. You see what he's doing with there, consistently running the ball. You see what LaFleur is doing in Green Bay with Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, be able to run the ball. Like Kevin O'Connell is the only one that can't run the ball. Like he just doesn't want to do it. Shanahan, we know Shanahan will pound the ball. So it's kind of like I have a lot of questions about Kevin O'Connell right now, and running the ball is one of them. And it's like you put Alexander Madison in the game, and even though you gave him 2 carries, I feel like those carries kind of killed the drives because he basically went nowhere. I mean, he had 2 carries for -1 yards. Like, if he wasn't healthy, why are you playing him? And if you wasn't even getting any pop from him and you saw it, why even put him in the game? Like, it's just ridiculous. So let's talk about Kevin O'Connell. All right. There's a lot of talk out there with people saying Kevin O'Connell should be fired and Kevin O'Connell is not a good coach. And I'm still going to reserve those thoughts and firing him, and because he's only on his second season, and this is only his his second year as a head coach of an NFL football team. And I feel like next year is the year, if he doesn't make the proper adjustments, in my opinion, where I'm going to start calling for his job. As of right now, I'm just going to criticize him for the things that he's doing on offense and the way he's, running this team and the game management. Now, Nick Mullins. Now, I feel like this. I feel like basically when Kirk Cousins went down with the Achilles injury, Jaren Hall was basically the only available quarterback. I understand the situation with Josh Dobbs coming in there because you only had one healthy quarterback on the roster, which was Jaren Hall. And Jaren Hall actually got hurt the next game in Atlanta, so Dobbs had to play. And then the next week, Mullins is back off an injury. But I felt after you decided to go away from Josh Dobbs and bench him because basically the offense wasn't going anywhere and there was a big catastrophe and the turnovers and stuff like that, I just felt like it was in the team's best interest to start Jaren Hall. And I know people were like, oh, if you start Jaren Hall, you're basically, punting the season. And I didn't really look at it as punting the season. And I'm really questioning, the way Kevin O'Connell handled this quarterback situation. I feel that you're starting Nick Mullins and he's basically giving you the same thing that Josh Dobbs did with all these turnovers. And I kind of feel like if you would have just started Jaren Hall, even if he struggled and didn't play well, I kind of felt like at least you would have learned something in that aspect. And now the Minnesota Vikings are basically fighting for a playoff spot. Like, they have to win out to even try to get into the playoffs. And I feel like if they would have been able to take care of business multiple times, if Kevin O'Connell was able to bench Jaren Hall and put somebody else in against the Chicago game, they could have won that game. Like, if he was able to basically, call better plays against Cincinnati game and win that game. I mean, there's a lot of what ifs, but I don't make any excuses. I'm just really questioning Kevin O'Connell going forward. And I feel like as of right now, there's like, why not start Jaron Hall the rest of the season? Because it's kind of like what do you have if you're gonna allow Nick Mullins to go out there and have all these turnovers? Why not the rookie do the same thing and actually grow from it? Because we already know what Nick Mullins is, and Kevin O'Connell with the play calling and the basically the lack of trying to run the ball. It's just a lot of issues for me going forward. But this is a bigger issue that we need to talk about as Vikings fans. There were a lot of injuries, throughout the season, but it feels like the injuries are starting to like pile on the Minnesota Vikings, and it's getting like worse and worse. As of this recording, we still don't know the severity of TJ Hawkins' injury. They're saying it's an MCL, PCL, and he might be out, for some time. I mean, it's unfortunate. I mean, the guy was having a great year. DJ Wanham basically tore his quad, so he's out for the season. I mean, it's just injuries, man. But injuries are a part of the game. I just feel like, this season could have been a good season, and now we're like at the end of the last 2 weeks, and these injuries are piling and piling up. I'll do a reaction video later, just when it's released about TJ Hawkinson, but it's a sad case, man. Like I felt the guy was playing like all world this year, and just for him to be, kicked out the game for a knee injury, but injuries do happen. All right, looking forward. Looking forward, first off, like I said before, this is what I want to happen. I want to see Jaron Hall the last 2 games. Even if the Minnesota Vikings make the playoffs, I want to see Jaron Hall. Okay, that's first. Defensively, Brian Flores, you're doing a great job. You made some adjustments, but still, I kind of think some of these teams have some tape on your defense now, and they're starting to figure out, where to throw the ball and where the defense is soft. That happens. Running the ball. Kevin O'Connell has to get more consistent running the ball. I know this is the last 2 weeks of the season, and basically he is what he is running the ball. But if you want to try to sneak in this playoffs and do anything, you're going to have to do that. But we're going to have to see, because it's kind of like, the Minnesota Vikings are basically, on their last weeks. Every game this point now is a playoff game. So thank you guys for watching my channel, reaching out. I really appreciate it. Like I said before, happy holidays and everything. Skol Vikings, and let's get out of here.